About 2 years ago, I quit believing in the popular Christian view of hell as eternal conscious torment because logically it breaks down in many different ways. And the ones I'm going to offer here are not ones that I see as common in circles where this sort of thing is debated. And of course, today is a fitting day to talk about it because today is Pascha, which is the Easter celebration for most of the Eastern Christians. And obviously, it is the first Sunday after Easter for the Western Christians and some Eastern Christians. So in most theological systems, the things that end up getting you to hell are either sinful behavior, lack of belief, or a combination of both. The fundamental issue there is, of course, that we as people don't actually choose what we believe, and we don't even choose our values or desires either. You could definitely refuse to view certain evidence that may sway you one way or the other because you're afraid of the implication, but you can't actually choose whether or not that evidence convinces you. If I told you right now, hey, believe that I am not, in fact, a person, I'm not a Homo sapien, I'm a leprechaun. That is an outlandish claim, and you couldn't just choose to believe that even if you wanted to. Apply that to any deeply held belief or value. You can't just change those things on the fly, nor can you just choose whether or not the evidence available is convincing to you. Even our desires, the things that we want, we don't choose to want them. German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said that a man may do what he wills, but no man may will what he wills. And even when it comes to what we actually do, there is a lot of evidence right now from neuroscience that many of our actions, I'm not saying all because I'm not a determinist, but some of our actions and behaviors are actually determined. Judging or punishing an individual for something they have absolutely no control over is both illogical and pure evil. My second issue is that if even one conscious being has to suffer for an infinite amount of time, the most horrifying torment you can imagine, and it never ends and there's never any possibility of getting out, then it is not worth creating anyone. A common response to that is basically that I don't understand what hell is or what it's for. And there are three real views of hell that I see crop up most commonly in popular discussion as well as throughout history. A, that it really is a fiery torture chamber and it is actually a punishment being inflicted upon those there as a manifestation of God's divine justice for sin. B, that it is a place far from God that people voluntarily choose and they make an ongoing choice to stay there, and since humans are made in the image of God and were created by God, that is a painful existence. Or C, it is a state of suffering that the wicked enter when they behold God in all of his glory and perfection and absolutely hate it. In all three cases, or a mixture of those cases, the outcome is still eternal conscious torment. If creating people and endowing them with freedom of choice means that many of them are going to have to suffer unendingly with no chance of redemption, literally you could have trillions and trillions of people and angels and any other divine beings worshiping in heaven and perfectly happy, and even if one person has to suffer forever, it's not worth creating any of them, or at least either selectively creating the people who would choose God or limiting people's will in some way such that they don't have to suffer forever. As Mark Twain said, I was dead for billions of years before I came into existence, and I did not suffer the slightest inconvenience. The saved have very little to lose because they're not going to be conscious to suffer or experience anything negative, whereas that one damned person would be spared an eternity of conscious torment. Let's say in some hypothetical scenario I'm presented with a button, right? And if I press this button, I will almost certainly go to heaven or have $1 billion or some other major benefit. But there's a tiny risk that I would go to hell forever. Even if the risk of going to hell was infinitesimal, let's say that the chance is like 10 times 10 to the negative 100th power percent or something insane like that, I would still not press it for any reason ever. There is nothing, no goods, no riches, no benefit that are worth even a marginal risk of hell. And my third point, which leads off of the second point, is that being pro-life or really anything other than completely anti-natalist makes no sense if any risk of hell is on the table. And just understand, I'm not endorsing this, but I'm saying that if hell is on the table as a possibility, but the baby being sent into the afterlife automatically exempts them of hell, whereas if they are left alive long enough, there will be a non-zero chance that they will go to hell, horrific acts against children become justified in a system where eternal suffering is on the table. And of course, my fourth and final point, based on all of those other points, is that a God, or really any being that is infinitely and perfectly loving, merciful, benevolent, and good, would not create a reality in which any conscious being had to suffer forever. There are many other objections that I haven't mentioned that you've probably heard if you've listened to this discourse for any length of time, but I've pointed these out because these are really personal to me and my faith journey, and I haven't heard them discussed nearly as much when the idea of hell is debated.